Recording started, and I'm going to start my timer here right now. Start a stopwatch. Okay. So, very first thing on the agenda, calling to order and a roll call. I've got a contact list right here, so I will go through and read off names, let you know if they're present. Christina Barsky.
I am present.
Camille Flood.
Here.
Susan Mix. Didn't hear from Susan today. Might see her in just a second. Catherine Nygaard.
Here.
Amber Schaefer. Heard from Amber. I didn't think she was going to be able to make it today. Jack Reddick, our newest member, not going to be able to make it today. He's been in and out of town. I'm really excited to get everybody together and meet Jack. He took over that alternate position. Travis Hoffman.
Present.
Rebecca Dawson.
Present.
Todd Mulver is not here today. Kathy Whitman's not here today. Marilyn Ryan.
Here.
Perfect. Bradley Seaman, I'm here as the elections administrator. Nathan's not here. Josh Lockman, present. Oh, perfect, Susan. Great. And then we just had Susan walk in. Grab a chair here, if you don't mind. We'll get you up and ready to go. So I feel like we are fully out of quorum, ready to go. I'll hand it over to Christina because we got a lot of info to cover this
Great.
week.
Thanks, Bradley. The first order of business is the approval of the agenda. Somebody like to make a motion?
So
For a second? Okay, for the minutes, are we recording on this?
Yeah, so we're
Okay, so
recording here and.
I'm just gonna state that Susan's raised her hand to say that we are seconding. And so all in favor of. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Excellent. We have approved our agenda. That's always a fun order of business. The next order of business is our approval of the minutes from April 11th. You'll recall, Bradley, is that when we met downtown,
That was.
right? In the county office, and it's your birthday.
It was, yeah.
And there were several items that we covered, since we record our minutes. I'm assuming there aren't changes that we would like to be making to those. Is there a motion to approve our minutes from the recording?
So second.
Okay, all in favor, please say aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Okay. Moving forward. Public comment, for items not included in the agenda.
I have no guests online.
Okay. Old business. This is an efficient meeting. Okay, Bradley, we have under here vacancies on the EAC as your representative.
And between the last meeting and now, we've had a little bit of an update on it. We have a candidate who has applied. Forgive me, I've really been focused on the election. I know we have an interview scheduled for later this month, where we'll be reviewing. One of the things we really were talking about was that student representative and potentially looking at that position, seeing, is this something we want to look into a bylaw change for? Right now, that student position is dedicated for anybody attending post-secondary education. And we left it pretty open to try and capture that. But what we've ran into in the past was that our best members are seniors, graduate students potentially, and they're here for a semester or 3 meetings and then they're gone. The big thing we were looking at is, for us, it's that connection with the university. I love this. I'm going back to school and realizing how disconnected I am with that population and, you know, the notice of how to help share information, helping make connections to important people at the university. A lot of what's happening now at the university or in any post-secondary education to help capture other people. What we're looking at is potentially looking at a change in our bylaws that may change this from you can start your term if you are a member of post-secondary and complete your term. We've had a lot of vacancies 1 year into a term or appointed somebody with 1 year left and they finish off that 1 year of the term and then we're looking again. They tend to be a very rotating position, and the more continuity we can have, the better ability we're gonna have to get. So that was kind of the old business portion, what was on there, I'm excited. The new person that we have an application from is a freshman, living in a dormitory. And so there are pluses and minuses to that. We could have a student member complete the entirety of that term. I know my undergraduate at the university had some ups and downs. And so like there's that unknown there too, about like what will continue to come forward. It's something I wanted to keep on the radar. So I really kept that in under old business because we discussed it in April. And I figured that between April and now, we wanted to have a little refresher on that. This amendment or change is something we could look at implementing, putting forward, and still continuing forward with the people who are currently applying. So it doesn't necessarily change the current application process, the current interview process, just what happens if they're no longer a student. Do we keep that person? Do we keep that relationship? Do we keep that commitment? Here's the reality. This is your committee. So I want you guys to really think about that. And I want to keep this in here as I know we've been taking a look at potentially bylaws. If we do any bylaw changes, I really want to explore as much as possible. Run through on bylaw changes. Not say, hey, we looked at this, we want to propose bylaw change. Then the next time we meet, say, hey, what about this? We want to propose another bylaw change. So kept it under old business because it's something we had talked about. We had a vacancy all the way through the summer being the hardest time to recruit university or post-secondary education. But now that we're back in, we're ready to go. We do have an applicant. At the time we were circulating this, we did. So I thought it was really pertinent. I want this kind of on your guys' radar to say what's going to be the best for the makeup of this committee. Questions about that?
What do the bylaws say right now about it must be a graduate student who serves 1 year, who serves 2? Many graduate programs don't take 2 years. Mine did, but then you do not.
So the current ruling, and I'll have to pull it, but it is currently attending post-secondary education, currently enrolled,
But not,
at least on a part-time basis. So
but not graduate.
it doesn't have to be graduate,
Ah,
can be anywhere, but like the best people we're getting tend to be
Sure,
experienced
sure.
in there and further along in their career. Where also excited to look at a potential applicant who may be new, maybe excited, and maybe building the same relationships and commitments. So just so you guys know, our bylaws are always posted right here on our EAC webpage. You can always access those bylaws. So they're up here, they're available. And I thought rather than me saying, but I'm pretty sure it's post-secondary and currently enrolled, we're gonna pull them up right now.
Sure, it's not. So, but do you know what their intent was in putting student, was it? It seems like enrollment in university, so it wasn't just like that age group or people associated with it. Could you speak? Yeah, could you speak more to everybody? I was wondering if what we were looking for was necessarily a student or somebody at, maybe a person employed by the university, but just someone who was at the university. And then it just says enrolled, so.
Yep. And we, forgive me, this was a few years ago. We had a lot of different discussions, came from committee members. I do believe it was that some of our highest utilizers of same-day registration, some of our hardest communication tends to be people from the university. And it's a specific group. I know that when I was at the university and lived on the university, anything past Russell Street felt like another city. And so it was trying to help encourage, trying to help have that liaison. There was specific concern. No, we want it to be anybody who's of a younger demographic. Anybody looking at post-secondary education. Well, the letter of that is, I'm attending classes at the university. I could be applying for post-secondary education, which puts me squarely in the white male 40s, maybe represented heavily enough. This was really kind of went back and forth. Now we'd have to go back to some of those meeting minutes and I can help pull those. I know that it was, hey, when we're having an event at the university, like a satellite office event, we want somebody we can reach out to who can help connect us to the right people. When we're doing something like Vote Early Day that we'll have coming up on the 27th, we need help advertising and we want somebody who is not, who's represents the election office, not necessarily a political affiliation or the ASU student government affiliation. So that was some of the different discussion, but it was, we don't want it to be so limited that it is just the university. What if somebody is attending Missoula College? What if somebody is attending, I know it came up, the beauty school? I'm like, somebody in those categories, and that's why the language that I do remember specifically was post-secondary. And so it can be really anybody. And the big aspect is on at least a half-time basis. Ideas that we were kicking around could be student at large member enrolled in the University of Montana, other post-secondary education will accept into that term. That would allow you to join in as a senior, go through and then continue and fulfill the rest of that term. Noting that that student position must, I think we're on representative number 7. And so it's really trying to gain that continuity. Everybody's brought something different to the table. That was really my goal. And especially after having just gone through the summer without another application, really saying, hey, what do we look at? Where do we do? That's the idea. I think that as we talk about some of our other new business, we can review this as well. I think that as we take a look at that, that was the specific look that we were looking at in April. I really wanted to keep that on the radar. We have another applicant. The new applicant we have, and I mean, it's hard with only one applicant. It's not a very competitive interview process in that category. But we're addressing some of the concerns that we were seeing in April, just based off of who applied. The other alternative is, as we do this and we do great work, more people will want to serve on the EAC. And so we'll grow in that capacity too.
Christine, got a question. What if we were to say, only available to seniors, only available to graduate students, and you get 1 credit, it's an internship?
Totally. I think the only problem you're gonna face is the same year cycle. It's gonna
Yeah.
happen, right?
Yeah,
Because
for
there's a certain number of credits you can get from advanced studies or internships that once they're graduated.
So
It
it's,
doesn't matter.
we'd still get it for a year,
For a year,
but maybe we get more than one person.
right, for sure. We could definitely talk about offering a, like, credit option.
1 credit.
And, you know, the other thing to note is our terms start at the beginning of the year. I think it's actually February is when the term ends on January 31st. And then new terms would take place on February 1st. Yeah, I had to double check that. I don't want to give you guys bad info. Many students start in September.
Could the spot for the student representative start in September and end at the end of May?
Yeah,
So it's a 1-year term for the student, is that correct?
3-year term, just like every.
But they have to be
I
enrolled.
mean, maybe it's just we should set the expectation that students are gonna be around for a year, and then we
Yeah.
get another one, and that's just what it is.
That's pretty common amongst the, I would, it may be addressed somewhere else in the bylaws. But it would seem to me that that person, if they're going to spend an extra year when they were no longer a student, they should at least remain in Missoula County. And that may be already be addressed,
I think that is
probably.
correctly, that you're registered voters.
In Missoula County.
Okay, there you go.
I think that's what it is, but
So.
Yep.
The intent of having a student on here was to have a way to communicate with that population. Is that the main purpose? I mean, I know you said that that was one of the bigger areas where we have to communicate because of the late registrations and all that.
Yep, and I know it was brought up by representatives, and this would have been 2016. And so this would have been when I was attending much more in Nathan's capacity, just kind of reviewing and watching, but it was really to help share information and gain information.
So.
Now, I loved it based off of the university, but there were concerns from other members of the committee at the time that said, don't limit the people who can participate, because this was an at-large position. So changing this at-large position specifically to a student position severely limited who would be eligible to come in. And some of the look was, we want this to be as open as possible. We want to gain that viewpoint, that information sharing. But also we didn't want to limit it to the point where you no longer, now we have such a specific group that it remains open. And that's sort of where we ended up between April and now.
Maybe if we change the incentive structure with adding a credit, you get more people applying. And change the terms to match the school calendar and change the expectations to match the population.
For just that one term.
Just that one person.
And I kind of like having it in September because that would be, we have a meeting in October. We have a meeting in January, we have a meeting in March. That's the only 3 meetings that person would go to. But it hits right before the registration for the November ballots, which this February one, I mean, maybe they get 1 meeting in before we have a primary or something.
Maybe the internship would be they go to 3 meetings and they have to do some other.
Some kind of,
Well,
Okay.
that's what I just wrote down here.
Because that's not enough.
Right, we just say
Yeah.
something.
Yeah, and there's plenty of work to do.
So. Can I grab Rebecca really quick? Sorry, I love this. We have so much.
What kind of results are we getting out of this position? So the intent was to have a student to reach out to that student population, communicate with the university. Are we getting
yes.
the desired results? If we have that open communication, are they helping facilitate what we need? Are we getting the desired results out of the intent of the position?
I think with the hero,
It really depends on the person
yeah.
who's filling that seat. I know that we had, I do believe, our first person filling that was Kachiana.
Yeah.
And Kachiana was amazing in helping connect us up with some ASUM people. I believe this was 2020. This would be the times that I had been in this role. So forgive me guys, because the EAC is really unique. It's your committee. What do I want out of them compared to what does the committee want out of them is always a little bit different. And I'm always big on helping share that information back and forth. Now, we have had others who were registered voters here who were remote. That gal with the C, she worked as an internship in Washington, DC.
But she's been here.
She had been here. I wasn't Clara.
There.
Yeah.
The fall and spring.
So she'd been here for 2 meetings, then continued, but was working in DC and attending remotely. My biggest goal, what I want from a student representative, is that communication and liaison between the campus.
So I
We
guess my
have
question,
separate
whether
group too.
is the student even the right person for that? Because they've got, I mean, I remember when I was in college, just a long time ago, but I was worried about school and socializing. I wasn't really worried about interacting with a larger group of students, maybe the 10 I hung out with, but I don't know. I guess I question even the requirement to be a student. I understand what we're trying to do, but I don't know whether a student is the best person for that.
And it's really unique because the Office of Expert, I always struggle with this.
ELCS, experiential learning and career studies.
Yep, thank you. Is my best contact. They tend to be incredibly nonpartisan. They tend to be helping out students. They tend to be excellent in helping bridge these gaps and work with us. From there, it becomes, hey, if we're recruiting students to train to serve as election judges, who's your best person for that? And it's probably your peer group. And that's where it's so hard to catch somebody else. It's really about, as the EAC, well, and as we go through some of this new business and we start to say, where do we want to be? What do we want to be doing? And where do you guys want to go? Because I have other avenues. that I can use to help share information. Having that person who is there who says, hey, Bradley, holding this satellite event in the law office compared to the university center is gonna really drop your participation. That can be really good. That one also I can pick up on my own, but there's other areas where having somebody boots on the ground can be so important. And I wouldn't want to limit that out. I don't know. My take is always, we have unique positions that are slated for political affiliations. We have unique positions that are slated for ADA. And a unique position that was slated for students. This is, as your committee, you could say, hey, where do we want to go in that future? Now, note that the goal is to advise the commissioners, whatever we come up with, Josh would sit down and we go, is this where you as the commissioners want to go? And this is the reasons why the EAC is looking at this proposal. The big area that I was looking at was lack of filling the position. You know, from April, we had a vacancy open all the way through, and we just had the application come in last week.
So I think we've had some really good suggestions on how to remedy the application or lack of applicants. But I do think as we're gonna do that and we're trying to incentivize this, I do think that putting the requirement that they be an in-person student. Because boots on the ground from Washington DC doesn't actually work.
She was an in-person student. She was just a summer internship.
Summer, I thought she was gone longer than that.
No, it's fine, but I agree. I think just in the back end of the university, we have online students that are registered voters in Missoula County. So just if we think about the language around it, right? Like, does it matter if they're, like, some classes aren't offered in person? I don't know. I might be splitting here.
But my whole point was I think we should look for someone that is actually going to the campus, not just online, not just, you know, a random person who's registered here.
Well, I think that the thing I was thinking with this conversation is I'm on campus all day, every day, and the students know way more about what's going on than I do, right? Like, they don't listen to me. Like, I'm just the person that talks with them. They have communication that I've asked them how they want to hear about things, because the way that I think it would work, it's usually not correct. So I think being there, like physically present is important for them to.
And I think we
So
can.
can I,
Yes, please, thank you.
sorry.
You're great.
I was just gonna chime in a second. So somebody mentioned or questioned whether it had to be a student or not. Bradley, you said that like your main goal behind the position is a connection to campus, but I think the most important thing for me anyways is that there's a youth voice in the process. I know when I was growing up, the youth were kind of excluded, and there was the youth section of things, and youth talked amongst themselves. And I think as we move forward, I think involving youth in the primary committee or whatnot is important, especially with the new generation coming up. And I question whether or not it needs to be a student. I would agree that students probably are the most informed, but I think the most important aspect of a student or whatever this position turns out to be is that we have a youth perspective of things.
I think, and it's really interesting because I don't want to put words in other people's mouths who are here proposing the reasons and why. I think that was a bit of the push. Get younger people involved. And also, I was just looking at the ADA rep. We can work on language. We could have something like, this is an at-large position with priorities given to those whom are under this age or at the University of Montana. Here's the hard part. As the EAC, my original goal was fill this position. As the EAC, I can definitely see a benefit. As the elections administrator, I can see a benefit from having somebody with connections with campus. Very specifically, this is a large portion of our town. Having that connection is very, very helpful for me. I don't like having vacant positions that continue to be vacant and then we're bringing people up to speed considerably. I also get concerned about taking a position and making it instead of too narrow, too wide, that we're not actually getting what we're looking for. And the only person who applied during this vacancy was Bradley Seaman, white, male, white, 40s. We've got a lot of representation for people like me. I love this. I'm looking around the room. There are 2 white males in here, so I'm feeling great about saying, knowing that we're doing really good on being diverse. There's also Travis, sorry. I'm looking around the room and I should be looking online too. So I don't want to make it so wide that we're missing what we're looking for by saying, hey, we give a preference to university students, nobody from the university applied. I'd almost rather keep it open.
Brad, I'm just gonna fall back on, we need to provide an incentive for folks in this pretty transitory population, compassionate credit. Taking care of that and then adjusting the schedule to meet their schedules. Again, trying to fit a square peg in a round hole if they start in February. This doesn't work. I bet we're gonna see more applications if we design the position around them as opposed to expect them to fit into the position.
Well, the fact that they are transient at that age is the kind of representation, you know, we need to know what people who are transient are.
So
So I'd say adjust our expectations accordingly as well.
So how did this person come to you? Like,
oh, the
recommended them for?
I posted in so we used to have a 3 times a week email thing that came out, but now they've moved it to an online. Now you have to go to a website. It's a whole thing. But I've posted on there with the opportunity to get involved. Every year, several times.
Having a university professor on the EAC really helps me with advertising there. Here's our goal. Our whole job here is to advise the commission. We have a representative from the commission who says, hey, you've got this position. We can see a reason for this. What I think might be good is to take a look at making the position fit what we're looking at. To not spend too much time on this. We've got a lot of other items to hit. What I'd love to do is work that out and send out an email for everybody and say, hey, here's an idea based around what Josh was recommending that looks at this and changes those positions. We can still continue forward with interviewing our applicant for that vacant position. We can still look towards changing the term of that position in the future and not impacting our current applicant. And we can see if this hits a lot of the different goals that we were looking for. I want to help guide this conversation. I don't want us to go so far down the road that we turn around and we say, commission, here's what the EAC has recommended. And you go, no, that's really not the goal that I would want to go for. I like this. Let's hit where we're at. Let's look at that recruitment. But I think we can look at making the term more appropriate, noting that that position specifically would come in at the start of school. We could look at making it incentivized by providing right around the workflow, very similar to what we're going to talk about next. And saying, hey, but this is the project, this is that workflow, gaining that voice and that connection with that university, and knowing that these are continually moving. My big goal is include this with some of our other discussions and don't make any changes quickly. Make sure we're planning them out and doing them correctly. Because these are bylaw changes, and the last thing we want to do is propose a string of bylaw changes. I want to review them all and make sure that if we're going to do this, we say, this addresses this concern, the next concern, and our other concern. Now, we fixed the student, Josh, we're coming back in a week and we're going to try and fix our next one. Does that seem like a pretty good plan to everybody? Sorry to jump right in.
It does. And one more thing to think about, I noticed that the student representative must have taken election judge training, which is only offered in alternate years. And now this kid's a freshman, so she, I don't know, is gonna be, we hope, around for a while. But it could fall on the off year. I'd say drop that,
It's a good idea.
so they don't know how to.
I think having it as a recommendation that they complete that at the.
It works as a bylaw.
No, I know, I'm saying moving forward, we would like to see you complete this at the earliest
Sure, but not,
possible time, but not as a prerequisite. I agree with you.
But also to maybe for credit, they need to go to an election. Just be here and observe.
I've got some ideas.
Vote.
Right.
Yeah.
I have an idea on that. And it bases around last year and plans for next year's training. If everybody here feels very strongly that this is something we should remove from our potential eligibility, this is your committee.
Only for the student.
I'm like, I haven't recorded.
So I was gonna say.
I can send
I
those.
think we take it and watch it.
They can talk and have fun. And it's not the same experience you get when you come in person. But I would rather have them have that knowledge and that information than strike that just because we offer it in person every other year. I know that we're planning on recording and broadcasting and doing a few hybrid basic election judge training classes, and we always keep that recording at the end. This may be a little bit more on me. When you get somebody in here, send them this training and encourage that.
I've got some ideas.
Okay.
And like, that would take that administrative burden maybe away from an already burdened role that you have. And think about how to develop some systems, like being able to stop our voicemail noodle is gonna become Canvas. Where it's just there and whoever comes in can, if they're a student, they've got access to it, right? Like, there's some tools that we have that we can.
And there could be a great way to just start getting this out
Yeah.
on our website. Here, the reason we haven't done this is laws change so rapidly that it can be really hard to advertise that this is our election judge training, and then somebody comes back and states, well, your ID laws that you're referencing in this election judge training were actually stricken down. And then next January, they could be revitalized. And so like these changes make it really hard to publish that all of the time. The easy solution to this is this election judge training was recorded on February 22nd, and the next those laws and those days. I think we've hit this a lot. My takeaway is I'm gonna come back and I'm gonna shoot everybody here a quick update about what we could look at for that student term, because this would require an update to our bylaws to say we would want it to start in September, and we want to look at maybe that in-person student led, something similar to that. As we do this, we can stay in our own business, and then we can come in and we can discuss it more thoroughly after we've built it out. I'm happy to take that on and give you guys that framework. Note it is just a framework. I need your input, guidance, changes, feedback.
Just a process question, I guess. Don't think to do with it. But, are we allowed to email like that discussion? You know, cause it's discussion of issues outside of our meetings, you know, like as far as having like public access and sunshine laws to our discussion.
Yes, you would, open meeting laws apply to any fiscal decisions that you would make. As an advisory committee, you will make no fiscal decisions. We will only advise the commission and the elections administrator, and those are the ones that must be very public. I am actually much less formal on that process. We've gone through quite a bit, and Dan Clark really beats that home and says, don't violate those of the meeting laws, so we can tell when everybody's watched those training videos. For us, it's a little different. As an advisory committee, we can have these discussions. Anytime I send it out from my email and it's replied to, it's public record. And I always work really hard to get us out of an agenda, get that agenda out in time to cover our public meeting laws, even though they only apply to the fiscal decisions that we would make. So I love that question, and yes, we're good on that. Okay, Travis, I'm really trying to make sure I'm focusing here. Any more on this old business? I've got a great plan looking forward to. I can get this out, and I will get it out in a couple of weeks to keep this moving forward. And we'll just kind of continue forward on that, bring it up the next meeting to say, hey, this is what we're looking at, this is the plans that we have in place, and we want to discuss, work this language out, and then propose that later for the commissioners to say, hey, this is something we should change.
Okay. Our next point of business is our election administrator update. Bradley, what would you like us to do? You sent us a link. I don't know if you've seen the watch list.
I haven't. Should we just go really honest? Did you watch this yet?
Not yet. I'd be happy to watch it later though, and not do it in the meeting right now.
It is extremely brief. I was very sick. We had a very successful election. There was one ballot in the primary election that was not accounted for correctly. It was like 0.005% error rate. Our primary election went off without a hitch. We had a great canvas. We also used this opportunity to train multiple other elections administrators, as well as we held a public tour for the State Administration and Veterans Affairs Committee, where they came, watched our process, and learned specifically about the checks and balances. It was fantastic. I can't talk about that without giving a quick hats off to Jill, Nathan, Mark, Peggy, Marjorie, and the rest of our team. Because without such a good team, I wouldn't have had the opportunity to spend so much time with those legislators, as well as other members of the public, and it was fantastic. Redistricting is underway. We've got that website up. We've received a few comments on that. We have a fantastic plan. We will be presenting to the commissioners for adoption after we close out the November election. We're pushing really hard to get that wrapped up by December so that we can provide out lists requested by different candidates for months now. My biggest aspect is election judge training and recruitment. This is where I really rely on the EAC to help me. We are gearing up for election judge training and recruitment. We are closing out our redistricting. We've updated our precincts and polling locations and consolidate. Under the plan that's not yet accepted, we will be consolidating 10 locations. This leaves us with the most polling locations out of any county in the state of Montana, which is something our voters have asked for. It also leads us to consolidation, better usage of election judges' time and staffing. And we're going to need to recruit 500 election judges next year. I'm not going to burden you in this meeting, but I am going to ask for your support over the next few months to help me connect with the best people we can. We created a plan in 2018 called Give a Day for Democracy. Carol Bellin, member of our election advisory committee, helped us by stealing it all from the Secretary of State of Ohio and saying we should do this here. We jumped in and with bells on, we set up a great plan. I have flyers, I have handouts, I have requests. What we need is the right people to talk to. Give a Day for Democracy says that you want to support the elections process by allowing people to train as election judges. That can be, you want to give myself, potentially one of you, or somebody else from our office, 5 minutes of time at a staff meeting to talk about election judge training, recruitment, and sign-up. It could be you allow people in your organization or group time. So if you, a great example is Missoula Federal Credit Union, Clearwater Credit Union, it is built into their model, same with the city. Volunteer hours. They will give you time off, paid time off to come and train as an election judge. And as the true gold standard, they will pay their wage as a manager of a bank branch to come and serve us. This is a huge program. And what I'm really shooting for is, can you help me make a connection? I could run this across the finish line, but I have a list of multiple different political organizations, multiple different nonprofits, multiple different corporations. And what I need to know is, who's the right person to talk to this year at Clearwater Credit Union? Who's the right person to talk to at the central committees? Who's the right person to talk to at the Kiwanis Club? So that we can share this information out and make sure that it's getting in front of people. From there, it is, as that business owner, what level do you want to participate at? All of them are great. Not everybody can be to that gold standard that we're going to pay our staff their wage they would make here, paid time off to come to training and on election day. If you can, amazing. If you can give them unpaid time off to come here and train for the $12 an hour that we pay, amazing. If you can give me 5 minutes of your staff meeting to let important people know that this opportunity is coming, and while you may not be getting paid time off for it, we can work to figure out a good way to get you involved.
May I ask a question? How did you get Clearwater Credit Union so involved in the first place? When this was proposed the last time, the places that I offered to go talk to, I hit a brick wall.
I'm with you. I hit wall after wall trying to talk to.
They part of it was because of all of the, suspicion of the election the last time. They thought, oh, you're going to indoctrinate us. No. Voting, not voting for a particular candidate, but they were very suspicious.
So here's how that goes. Make the connections you know. If you don't have those connections, and the best way that this came about, Jeff Badnock was serving on the EAC in 2018. He was also on the board of directors for Clearwater Credit Union. They introduced me to, I want to say it's Jack, who is the president.
Yeah, Jackson, he's very community minded.
Yeah, he is an amazing community-minded person. I've gotten to know him from all of the Missoula Federal Credit Union summer events. And between that connection, we were able to walk it across the finish line really easy. The cold calls are not what we're going for. It is, do you have a connection? And can you say, Susan's gonna introduce me to this person at this organization, and I'm gonna make that ask. Now, where you guys would make that ask is, my best friend runs whatever. Do you mind if I talk to them about Give a Day for Democracy? No, I'll hear you up, I'll get you guided, I'll get you ready to go. It's the right areas, the right connection. Now, here's the reality. If we had asked Clearwater Credit Union to create that plan and implement that plan, it would have been a lot harder. It was already built in and we shoehorned right into it. It's the same as the city of Missoula. City of Missoula has a volunteer plan and we're gonna partner closely with them again. Creating that plan is not that ask. It is, have you met my buddy Jack, who happens to run Clearwater, and let's talk about how we can support. That's the ask that I really need. Now, sometimes that best messenger, maybe Cameo says my buddy runs this bakery and would love to give everybody these days off. Please ask them. Let me make sure you're ready, make sure you're prepared, make sure you have that info. But those cold calls are not gonna happen. They're not gonna make it through. And without that introduction, that's exactly why we started this plan. I, with Rebecca, was out making cold calls. We don't get much. We will send a letter to all of our trained election judges. We will recruit through the central committees, which have taken a very large role in this due to a lot of different legislation that was proposed and are very aware with those different requirements and regulations that they have available. We'll do the exact same thing we did every time we've done election judge training, and come and recruit people because the way that the laws are slated don't really work in the reality of the election process. We will do really, really well. We will need fewer judges this cycle. We have done a great job of capturing and having returning judges as well as new judges. So those that are terming out are terming in, and our recruitment efforts here are large but doable. This is the most election judges that any county needs, and we're gonna knock it out of the park. And what I'm gonna be doing is I've already started prepping materials. I've started getting quite a bit of items together. And I'm gonna be working and sending out a Excel spreadsheet that says, these are the organizations that we have built upon for the last few years. And I won't be deleting who their contact person and phone number is. I'll be asking you to help us fill that data. That's the big request. Adding new organizations that I may have missed. Letting me know if an organization listed there is no longer active. And making that connection so that we can get in touch. And that might be an email to Bob, your partner on the Kiwanis Club, who says, we'd love to have you come and speak. Or it may be that, hey, Bradley, you completely missed this group, and I know Joe who runs this group. I'd love to make an introduction or an ask. That's the big part on training and recruitment. And that's specifically what I'm going for. And that's exactly it. No, the goal's not cold call them and ask. The goal
These
is
people that I have an association with. And they still.
And
No.
the people's public perception of election has been changed. We've been through 2 years of claims of voter fraud and all kinds of irregularities that have not been substantiated. And we came out in February of 2022 stating that if we don't address this, February 2021, it's been a long time. If we don't address these, It will cause people to question in their public perception of the process. And that's what we're battling. Now, here's the thing. If you know these people, great. If we can get in touch, great. If they don't want to, not a problem. But it's just trying to cast as wide of a net, get as robust of a population of people. And my goal, I always say it this way, when you go to vote, I want the people serving you to look like you, to represent you, to match our community. And we do a great job of catching retirees. Those are not our only voters.
We just.
It's not just a month, yeah, the global.
Yes. And I love it because I'm watching other things. I do not expect to go into this and be desperate and dying and begging for volunteers, but this is an incredibly large recruitment process.
Bradley, as we're trying to get contact information for different organizations, did you say that you have flyers or media? Can you send that out or
Yep.
provide it for us?
Yep, I have a whole packet.
If you hit all the civic groups, we have contact info, we have to two Rotary clubs, two Kiwanis clubs, and there's a couple breakfast clubs. And they are always often looking for speakers.
Yep.
I let you get you on the, do the circuit.
I
If
do,
you want.
no, I do the circuit every time. What I normally do is, before you guys get this, our communications department set. I got a whole team that works for the county who helps track a lot of this exact same items. And before I say, can you guys please help me? I want it to be as robust as it can be. I just don't want it to be that you're starting over from scratch. You're going to be helping assist this project. So I will definitely be speaking to all of the Rotarian groups, all of the Kiwanis groups. I've already got a few slated for this fall, and we'll be pushing out each of those different service groups. The next big one really becomes help us find, and specifically these amazing groups that are doing this already that we may be missing. That Clearwater Credit Union, the city of Missoula, before we knew that this was part of the process, it felt like we were begging for something that was unattainable. Knowing that this is built in, knowing that civic engagement is something that organizations and corporations are really looking at, we're building off of it.
Can we do it at the county too?
We always send out one at the county. We have multiple different unions to work with inside of the county, and so we always do a recruitment that starts directly after, when we do this process. I recruit our existing election judges because classes can't fill. We want to make sure that we provide them that opportunity. In January, we start reaching out and we do our continuing partners. We do our central committees, and then we start hitting everybody else. And so the county always gets a letter in January, but it can be really hard. Depending on the union group, I'm going to get an amazing county person who can help us in the county center. But based off of their union contract, we are paying them $52 an hour to serve in there. It's silly. And so we're always balancing that, working with HR. It really boils down to what the union agreement is and what that department head is willing to do. Many times, great department heads will give their employees comp time for serving here, which is a middle wash. You know, it's not that they're making their wage. We're not paying an exorbitant wage. And it is really hard for me in that circumstance to have Susan and Cameo sitting next to each other doing the same job, but due to union rules, Cameo is receiving overtime on a federal holiday and making $52 an hour for something that Susan's being paid $10.50 for.
And I don't know if it exists with the county and several other states, localities will have civic duty pay for their public workers. And it could be something that at the county, you could think about like a mutual aid agreement essentially amongst the departments where that sort of union issue becomes a little less of, I can send some information about it.
Yeah.
Well, it's a really interesting process that actually involves more than a quarter of the full workers in those spaces being public employees already. So it's really changed the demographics of who's able to serve at the place.
Well, if you are a county employee, next November, you will have that day off. That is, most people will have that day off. That's federal holiday, federal election voting day. And so it makes sense to capture those people. I think Christina tagged me in on that.
Yep.
I'll also recruit through the
I don't think
city.
it's a federal holiday. It's a state holiday.
Big holiday, sorry.
Recognizing the federal.
Thank you. But county workers will also.
That's a big.
Most people still don't work.
County workers have a day off, then that union stuff wouldn't matter.
Yep, and the city, well, the city has it established, the union, we don't let people ask. That's the big thing. That's something that the city is able to establish, and if the city can do it by Nelly, we can do it there. Oh, I'm not biased. That's my update. I did want to take a second to talk about that. I've been working on materials. I was hoping to produce material, being sick. That other week really took the wind out of my sails. So I was excited to get you guys engaged. With that being said, I've updated our blurb, I've updated our other information. I've got our flyers and stuff right here that I'm getting ready to print. It will be coming very shortly. You should expect to see it in the next 2 weeks.
So how many people did you train last time that never?
That we serve. So it's funny because we went all the way through our list one time. And so everybody got a call in the 2022 cycle. Everybody got a call. How many didn't serve? I would say about 40 to 50. I don't count those numbers right. But what happens is I went on vacation. I was out of town. I got sick with COVID. I mean, like, we want more judges trained than we need. We need more judges trained than we need. But the goal is, we'll never have them all served, and we want that pool to be wide enough that if you went to Arizona early and you aren't available for the election, we got coverage. What happens the hardest is in the primary elections, our demographic tends to be a lot of retirees, and it tends to be graduation. And we will lose both the husband and wife. And they will be going to New Mexico for their granddaughter's graduation from whatever. And we said, that is amazing. And also we lost 2 judges instead of 1 judge. The November elections actually a little easier to catch for.
Is there any movement afoot to go to a strictly mail ballot? Then you'd eliminate a whole lot of the judges that are necessary and just use them for counting purposes?
No, there is no movement afoot to go strictly to mail ballot. That would be a statewide legislative decision. And,
Well, be my.
yep.
Or we can do an initiative, right?
There is a potential, the election office can't participate. in ballot
We,
initiative.
right.
Right.
There's a potential that it could come via ballot initiative. It could come through the legislature. And recently laws were just passed that would need to be changed because federal elections cannot be held by mail ballot. There was a little bit of change that I have to pull it up, but they updated that to state that it won't go through, I think, without legislative approval this time instead of governor approval. But it would require a law change at the state level. And there's no current active. I don't have a petition circulating in the state or going for approval to do that.
I'm just looking at the question.
Yeah. Questions about that quick update? That took a lot of time here, and I know we're just about to lose Josh. Right as we're getting the new business, which is exactly what I wanted to hear for. I should have just said, we'll catch up later.
Tell me real quick.
Yep, let's dive into that unless there's any other questions. I have to look and make sure I'm not missing Travis here. Okay.
Do you want me to take it? Okay, new business. So we sort of covered several of these pieces already with the bylaws. Bradley had come to me over the summer, wanted to just talk about like where things were, his thinking around the student position, how we're thinking about that. We already had that conversation. We're revisiting it when we get back together again. But in that, we sort of got to talking about like, I teach nonprofit administration and government administration. So I was like, do we have like a guide about job descriptions and what we're all supposed to be like signing on to when we do this? And Bradley was like, no, that's a great idea. And I said, oh, we could probably design that for you. And so I just wanted to be able to start a conversation about like, what do we envision ourselves being as the EAC, and maybe getting a little bit of that written down outside of just like the bylaw language, but sort of, you know, if you started on a board where they give you like the binder of like the role and the description and what's expected of you. I think that partially recruiting students can be hard because they're like, I don't really know what this is. Like, it's not really a job description. So one of the requests that I wanted to pose to this group was essentially, if I start organizing some of these like materials or thoughts, would you be interested in helping develop sort of the like guidebook for how we proceed as the EAC in this next iteration of our group? That was sort of my ask to the
I
team.
think that's a great
Yes.
idea. So then when we're looking for any outlet
Right.
membership, they know what we're talking about.
Great. So my request will be, thank you. I'm gonna do some of the back end work because, I'm happy to around the questions that I can ask to help sort of formulate this and create a space to collect those data between now and we'll probably have another conversation in January. Does that sound acceptable? Sort of, really, I'm looking for what you think, what your advice would be, and what we want to be together, and sort of creating that sort of future where we're headed. Instead of, I feel like sometimes we get in the cycle of off season, right? Like 21, 23, and then 24 happens, and we're sort of like, you know, which way is up and what's going on. If that makes sense.
So you're gonna start with what the commissioners want from us? That's where you're gonna start.
I'm thinking I'm gonna start with our group and what we want to create together.
That would be way better. What you just said. Start with what you guys are doing. The commissioners are not fully informed. So you guys have to bring something up.
That was my thought, was us. That's where we're the EAC.
Well, then,
And I'm just saying that we're here because the commissioners wanted our advice. And so I'm kind of thinking that we need to understand exactly what the rest of the group is from the commissioner's point of view, even if they don't really know what's going on.
Well, it's kind of like, I mean, most companies, the vision, values is going on. So if the commissioners write a vision, we can write our mission
Right.
and then come up with a job description.
And
We have a little bit specific to the EAC. Some of this was my role on the EAC is secretary. I should be taking notes. I should be recording those. And it kind of came to agendas. Those will come from Nathan, those will come from me. But as the EAC, the board as a whole, I'm not interested in adding a secretary, but I am interested in stating, what does the chair do? Next, January's meeting, we need to elect a new chair, and we should really have a good breakdown of what that chair does, what their roles are. What does the vice chair do? What does, as a member, what does the actual service look like? Because when we go into an interview, there's 4 meetings a year, there might be some off-time work, but we can really boil down to every other year, we'll be doing this Give a Day for Democracy plan, and what's another program we can work on? What are ideas that we should be looking at? Redistricting. Comments received from the team here were some of the best comments we got. Cameo, we did it. We made that change. It was super easy. We were looking back at the previous House district lines, wanting to keep things as much continuity for voters. But when it comes to advice, you guys have heard from me multiple times. You're tagged in, and the advice you provide is valuable. I take that advice and I present it to the commissioners, and the way that comes forward is we did have a comment and we adjusted a precinct boundary between Bonner and Clinton, and it's in this proposed plan for you. And they say, thank you for taking all of this great advice and presenting it to me. It's worth its weight in gold, and maybe shaping around what that commitment looks like, what that role does. And, you know, like, who's going to send out an agenda? When are we going to send an agenda, and when should we have it replied by?
I think your point's really valuable, it's, you know, with like both needs,
I
right?
just want to remind everybody that the reason this commission is here, whatever we are, is because the clerk and recorder used to do the elections, and we got away from that. And considering the things that have happened in some other counties, I'm not advocating that we ever go back to an elected official that's doing the elections. But the county commissioners are the ones that need to direct it. They're the elected officials that are in charge. So I think it's really important that we're all working together and that we get the elected officials' position on what we're supposed to do and the advice that they need. Frankly, otherwise, we're just making up rules for ourselves to do and filling our time, and
We can definitely do that, and the purpose of this committee is to have a set of subject matter experts to really engage people who can offer us advice. So it'd be really important to hear what you have to say.
Just so, the voters know they can come to you and complain about whatever it is about the elections, we can take that up and figure out how to fix it so that they do have an elected representative
I
in
think-
charge of the elections,
Yeah, like, yes, and like you're saying, sort of, we're coming from the top and from,
Yeah.
we're sort of mid, I would say.
Well, the top and the side so that we can figure out,
Yeah.
like I said, we know what the vision is, what service we provide to the commissioners. And also what that job description looks like in providing the service.
I think I'm hearing sort of a conversation along with you after this meeting about maybe how we can collect some priorities
Yeah.
from the commissioners about where you're really seeing, where you'd like actions, what you'd like.
That's a great thing to say, because we're not gonna be, I can tell you for sure, they're not gonna be long in detail, but priorities.
Yeah.
It'd be great if one of the things is you guys give us feedback on what complaints you've had about elections. That come from you guys. Here's what we've heard from the voters, and then we can fill that in.
Okay.
I can help assist with that, Josh, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you. Look at that, because what the way this usually goes is I am this liaison in it.
Yeah,
They will receive an email. X, Y, Z, sent it to BCC at missoulacounty.us. And then it comes to me.
so then you're not just being the secretary.
Yep,
So you're actually the spokespersons kind of for the commission on that. But it starts feeling then that we're not doing the voters' wishes once we start getting away from it coming from them.
yep. And so I can really help with that, because the way that that happens is Josh Wallerdale says, can you answer this question about? I can track those really easily. Plug it into my EAC folder and say, these are the questions that the commissioners directly got, that got sent in here. And some of what I was thinking is, help build you up as subject matter experts. Redistricting was a good example of this. That's once every 10 years. I can pull a project for next year in that level of detail, in that level of information, and train on that. And you know what it would be? Election judges, polling places are gonna be a big thing next year. And I think we could really hammer down, these are the laws that changed and the requirements in here. And help guide you guys in this framework of where the commission wants to go. I have a lot of projects that I can point towards. I also wanna get that guidance, like pointing towards north, you know what I mean? And I think that that can be really good. This engagement is perfect. This is what I was hoping for. I wanted to start this discussion and build this out more fully, because what do we do? How do we do? And what's our ultimate goal? And the ultimate goal comes from here. And I can serve as that liaison really, really well. Then when it boils down to what is this goal, I'm providing you all this information and working to help me here. And I don't want to strictly be the liaison. I like to hear it directly from the commission. I like it when you hear it directly from the commission as well. And I think we're working right in towards that. That was sort of the goal, and the idea is, I looked at it very administratively. When should we send this? Who should be responsible for sending this? Where should we collect? And that was the original area, but we can grow that quite a bit. What's the vision? What's the goal, and how do we help advise and fill that role better? Redistricting was a great example of one of those capacities and areas. What's the next going to be? And what's their vision, and where do we want to go? I know that when I talked about receiving guidance on redistricting from the election advisory committee, ears perked up, they said, great. And that's exactly what we were going for. Where it is.
I think part of this is really helpful to think through also. What Kenya is saying is maybe institutionalizing that, like, hey guys, do we want from us? Do we do it every 2 years? Do we do it every year? And does that help? Maybe that's more of what it is. It's institutionalizing like our process or something. So if somebody plugs in that's new, we're still sort of cycling. But I think that your point is super valuable, and I'm a little embarrassed for not having thought about that clearly before this meeting, but I think that that is the direction that we need to be going, is saying, what do you need from us, and then how do you do it? I like that. I will follow up with Commissioner Slot and I can see if I can get us on either an agenda with BCC to talk to them or just do sort of like a survey question and get them to provide back their priorities for us and to have in the next meeting in January.
I'd love to go with you.
Great. Perfect. I'll send it out to everybody. How about that? I'll just like ping Commissioner Slotnick afterwards and say like, how do you want to go about this? Like, we would be interested in setting up a conversation with you as the EAC to hear what your priorities are.
Great, yeah.
Okay. Bradley, is that?
Yes. I'm thinking of how to prep the commission for this meeting. Many times this may be, Bradley, what do you think these priorities should be? And more so, I can find the specifics. Polling places, redistricting, these sort of very specifics. The vision, where does the county go? That super high level, we can capture from them. Which is really unique because it's exactly what I'm doing in school right now, so it all ties in so well together. So I'm just like, yes, a clear mission statement and vision. I think we can work on that. It's something we're working on for the elections office. It's something that we have recently established with the county level. And the question is, how do we take what their goal is for the county to focus it to this realm? Because they've got a really great mission statement about serving the county. How do we take that to the elections? And more so, what do they want that to be and how can we help facilitate that discussion so they don't come in and be like, I think our election notes, why are you asking me? So that's the deep thought. You guys are all seeing Travis, I'm sorry, my head's turned away from the screen. But I like that. I'd love to be in there and I'd love to directly ask him. Very directly ask it and let people be a part of it. And I can help navigate commissioner meeting agendas and all that stuff too.
Okay, I can move on to the next one. Which is because I think that there's some marching orders here and I don't want us to get too far into the weeds, so we're just sort of talking in a circle. I think we've got some action steps that we're gonna take to be able to move this conversation forward. I got together with Bradley probably a month ago-ish, I don't know what's time. And asked him what his priorities were, like what's on your list, what's going on, what you need help with. And one of the things that he brought up was something that I thought could be something a group of us that are interested in an ad hoc could tackle, which is, he said, you know what I need help with? People come in the wrong doors in the election building all the time. And like, they drive, and I said, I'm the person that drives into the parking lot next door every single time. Like, I know that it's here, but I drive in the wrong parking lot. So he said he needs some help with wayfinding, and that what they did is they asked for a bid from a consulting group that does this, and it came back severely out of our budget. Yes. Surprise.
I believe it was $15,000 to create the plan
The plan.
for signage, not
Not the
just to install signs.
And I said, well, I'm certainly not a wayfinding expert, but do we have any data that we could look at or figure out? And he said, yes, I've got recordings of where cars drive in and how it works and blah, blah, blah. So I wanted to bring up to this group that this is a need that Bradley has brought up, which is help understanding how we should be signing the election facility. I know it sounds super sexy, but
Well, I mean, having worked at a bunch of elections and trying to find parking myself. I guess I have some input. I have some ideas.
We have the entrance here and the entrance here, correct? Is it possible to, on election day, like, just enter only, exit only? Cause when you've got 3 people trying to turn out over here and 3 people trying to turn in, and it's kind of a nightmare. So honestly, just correcting that flow makes a huge difference.
But if you're going that way at the exit, then, and everyone is leaving, then really your only option is to turn right, which
But
is.
there's a roundabout right there now, so, I mean, it's.
You know, it's not everybody who comes out of this knows that there's a roundabout over there.
Well, and maybe that's something that's put out on the website, if it's going to be a 24-hour change to ease the flow of traffic, that we put it out there starting October 18th, hey, your ballot went out, and when you come to drop it off, you need to enter from Russell and exit on Wyoming. And you're only allowed to turn right, there's a roundabout if you need to turn around.
What we do, we didn't do it this last cycle, and never again. We will do it every election, just in case. It's so hard, and it's new. We close all left-hand turns. So only right-hand turns, and we have trained people that come from OEM somewhere, the Office of Emergency Management. I'm sorry, I'm becoming a bureaucrat, lots of acronyms. They have people trained in parking. Only right turns out of the lots. They're in here, they're watching it signed, so no lefts off of Russell, crossing 2 lanes of traffic to get in. And no lefts out of the lot, because technically, the way this lot was established, this is Montana Department of Transportation on Russell. That's entrance or exit. You can turn left, right, in or out at any point in time. We work with the city, we sign it, no left turn, we put in people for just right turns only. Okay, I wrote down enter only and exit only. Here's the reality. I need ideas and help. I will be working, so there's 2 different aspects. One's traffic flow, which is an absolute nightmare. And the other is signage, which is an absolute nightmare. Traffic flow on election day is going to be exceptionally hard no matter what. And what we do with it is we try and staff in vested traffic directors. So we have them coming for this next election. They start at like 10 o'clock and they run until 6. After about 6, our lot clears out in the smaller elections. I asked them to stay until 8 in case, but we've got them know they may leave early. We'll do that every election because in the primary, I was like, can't need it for the primary. We needed it for the primary. We've had multiple layouts of this lot since Missoula County's owned it. Remember, right there at the corner, you used to be able to come in and out. We used to share a driveway with Western Montana Mental Health. And now we have 2 exits and entrances that weren't there when we bought this place in 2019. I am working on this plan in tandem between here as well as with our maintenance department and with all of our staff. Here's what I have so far. It's a list of signs I think we.
So I have a question when you're handing that out. Missoula County elections, this is a county entity. Is this something that the county roads department can help create the signage for us? Is maybe,
When you say create the signage, you mean produce it?
yes.
Yes, absolutely.
Careful.
And I know that OEM, I talked with Adrian, who's the director of our emergency services here, that she is willing to assign people to help us from their team.
Yep, we've got a good team and a good collaboration now. The last discussion was look at what our road maintenance department can make is a metal sign. And just a metal sign. I participated in the first meeting, and this is where some of this language comes from, just so you know. Because I am new to this, I have created sign traffic plans. Wayfinding signs are basically a sign in the parking lot that says that this is the elections office and that's the election center. We struggle with being in 2 different locations for different times, being in a new location, and nothing right now is signed. And my goal is to get as many signs as we could possibly need and then figure out where they need to go. And what we've looked at from the other groups are we need a few things. We need entrance and exit for the location. So that would be what they call a site sign. We need building signs. This is the office. That is the center.
That's so confusing.
I have been
Yeah.
working on this for quite some time in like, what's the best way? Do we either label it election center and elections
Why is
office?
it called election center? Why do you call that ballots and this is the office?
Or polling place or something more.
Central bowling.
Yes, it's great. That has been the election center since we had it at the fairgrounds. And the idea to change that has come up in this meeting.
Central bowling makes a lot of sense, something along those lines. When you're putting signage up, in my experience, people don't read signs on doors. I know it sounds really silly, but if it's attached to the building, they won't read it, so. A base and a flagged sign basically of some sort, people will read that, or they won't read a sign attached to a door of a building. So. Enter here or this way or anything, even if it's 6 inches away from the building, they will read that. Or they won't read the great big letters behind it on the wall.
That's so funny because we were talking about this entrance. We're looking at transitioning this to be our staff parking here because it's a dead end. It's in the middle of this. We are looking at staff parking lot sign here. And then we were looking at something to flag where the main entrance is. This was our main entrance to this building until this construction project. We will be battling that for quite some time. I feel like the best thing to do is a large sign before you come in that says staff parking area, main entrance this way. What they refer to as a wayfinding sign. Now, down here, I wrote on here, staff entrance only, please use east entrance, white letters for glass on the west door. Noting that at this point in time, you should have seen 2 signs. And that's where you're gonna try the door and it's not gonna open, and hopefully you find it there. Well, we've had our door signed and we've had people standing there with only 1 sign on the door saying, use the other door. Calling and being like, I'm right here. We're never gonna catch everybody. How do we catch most people? How do we make this easier than it is right now? And I've been really strong on this. I haven't made any signs that are permanent for this location yet. We use folding triangle corrugated plastic that we can move and put out and change. Now we're starting to get to the point where I think we have a flow established. I think we have a plan established, but I think it's time to take this to the next level. We'll always have that as an option. That has to be right in front of the door, that sign with that sandbag. Then you have to step around it to notice it. We've noticed that, it's pretty good. We're looking both immediate and long term. I have voters who find their way to where we used to be at the fairgrounds all the time. It's just happened. We don't have that habit built here yet. So mindful of everybody's time, I do want to try and end this at about 4:30 for everybody as we go through. This is my list. What I need is exactly what we've got, and what I would like to do is work to create a committee and say, if I send out an email, can I get some volunteers? We can schedule a couple of meetings and come in. This will take a little bit of time. As we go through this process, my goal is come up with a rough plan. Mock this plan for this election utilizing other signs, and then watch it on election day. I need people to be here to see and say, Bradley, this is your other area. I'm in so many places. I know our dead ends are a hard part. I thought this would be an interesting role for you.
I can probably volunteer people for election day 2024 to be observers from my research methods class. I'm just letting you know, observational research, they can do that. But if we have the plan to test, that'd be great.
Yep. What I'd like to do is figure out something now that gets us into there. Come 2024, I want science. I don't want it to be like working on that.
December they're in person, but
Yeah.
after December they're online.
Well, it could be this election. So I need help. Everybody, I can email all of this, I have everything together as a packet. I'm just so far behind, and we're also focusing on this upcoming election. We did a bunch of equipment testing and ballots are being prepped to mail today. I'd love to email this out. I'd love to make a request and say, can you join me? Especially if I put together this time, and this time where we will meet for this period of time and really nail it down. Different groups involved in this are going to include OEM, our maintenance department, as well as us. OEM and maintenance are here to help us get done what we want. I want voters to be able to find the building they need to go into.
Well, the
That's-
voters only ever go there.
That's basically all I need to know right now.
Voters.
Well, and it's funny because after this election, if a voter goes over there, we're here.
There's nobody over there.
There's nobody over there. And so what we'll be doing is when we're doing election judge training, our main staff will be located right in here. And that was part of this upgrade is we made a service area where voters can come. We just need to get them to the main door. But think about when we would be at the courthouse compared to the fairgrounds. We still grow and contract. And when we come to train election judges, we need that space for training. And also we have other departments utilizing that building. So we're still gonna be moving a bit. And that's the hard part. The nice part is the sign can be turned around and go in that door. Now, we're no longer in the fairgrounds, go across town and find parking, good luck, you know? But we're still gonna run into that. Yeah.
For, interest from folks after this meeting, is that your thought?
Yeah. Just to try and help get it scheduled. Now, don't let me step all over your toes. You're really good at helping get this going. And so I can just put together a couple of times that we can get in and say, hey, if we get 2 or 3 people from this group who want to help assist with that, that's perfect. Come up with it, mock it out. My goal is to mock out and utilize a rough idea of whatever we have. See what we can improve upon and then run it in 2024. Guess what? In 2024, we'll test it and see what we can improve on for the general.
Yeah, I'll make an announcement in class on Thursday that we're have a observational day here.
Perfect. And then in here, I mean, I don't have a voter parking area established. Where do voters park? Where's the best spot for a voter to park? I can tell you where I feel like the best spot for a voter to park is.
Place.
There's no sign here, they come stop, you know, there's no entrance or exit signs that say this is Missoula County's elections office coming here. Having a non-lit sign on the street isn't doing it for us. That might work for,
Much better than it was.
oh, it's definitely better, so we need to do more.
Infinitely.
Well, and they were talking, you know, we got a lot of people saying, well, how come people can find Bemco across the street and we need more signage?
Why construction was done? Did it have the entrance to where people are supposed to go basically hidden from where most people park? Because there's only like a few parking spots that are right near that door. Was there some rationale that we're missing that would help us make sense of it?
We couldn't move building locations. So part of the way that we got this is it's under design excellence. To meet design excellence, we couldn't move our building locations because they're outside of our building locations that meet design excellence. If you want to see design excellence, you look at Big Creek Coffee right there. In order to meet so we received funding through TIF for items like our fire sprinkler, our lift, and our ADA access. And in order to get that, we needed to request specific exemptions. And one of them was an exemption for moving all of our buildings to the street and having all of our parking behind it. And when we said we would do that, we couldn't then move the location of the buildings. So there are multiple different steps involved in it. And originally we planned on running people in off of the farthest east door. We don't have windows or maybe a push button in there, and it wasn't until we came up to the election that we realized that that creates a big barrier. I've never been through a construction project before. The amount of programming that we did, this is what we're looking at, this is where we're going, this is what we want to have set up, is amazing. The reality is far, far different. Up here, the programming we did had it set up for room for chairs, room for a wheelchair to maneuver and apply. And then when we got in here, I was like, but the chairs don't fit. Well, it's not drawn to scale. So there's a lot of caveats in here. And honestly, I'll say the programming and setting it up was a big ask. Putting it together and trying to make it work. And then some handcuffs. Some areas of where we can have an entrance or exit, where we can't. And not being able to change the building location. I listened to somebody today and they're like, I don't know why they didn't just build one building. That's 2 stories all the way across here. And I was like, I do, I know why. If you want to know, you can ask me and I'll let you know. It's because we couldn't. We had some really great ideas that didn't come to fruition. And then we've also got some areas where, as we built this out, it's just changed. And so for that, it was convert the warehouse space into a new space and what's gonna work the best and looking at flow. And then after going through a federal election cycle in there, I'm like, I'd change this, I'd change this, I'd change this, I'd change this. Hindsight's 2020. Really where we are now is what can we do to make it as easy as possible with the most continuity as possible? So that people learn where to go, so that it becomes the fairgrounds and they get in there to building 15 and they look for the elections office and they're coming to the right door here.
Well, to be fair, behavior from voters has changed significantly in the last several years, right? So like, even if we had the perfect plan, it wouldn't have mattered.
It'll be different the next time.
So you're gonna ask us for participate, you're gonna send dates and you're gonna say who's available, and we're gonna self-select into helping you make the signage the best it can possibly be.
Absolutely. I'm gonna put some guardrails on this. I'm gonna say, hey, here's a number of people that I would like. Please let me know, reply all so that we can see this. So we, that way Christina's not emailing me, being like, I'd like to be in, and everybody emails me. And I'm like, I love that we have 8 people. 8's too many to get this done. So I'll create schedule, I'll do a little bit of guardrails. I will schedule a couple of meetings. We will flush this out a little bit more. And the next step that's included in here is you're gonna get this. You're gonna get the schedule, that guardrail, as well as a map. Because I can easily number these and then put them on my overall site map to be like, this is what I'm thinking. Just so you guys see, because staff parking lot is great. If you saw where I was looking at signing and what I was looking at signing, that'd be really helpful. And then we can come in and we can start working it through. Thinking for my sake, if it's possible, I'd love to do these during the workday. If it is not possible, I can try and schedule them later. And then the other thing is I'm looking at trying to go a week or 2 weeks out and then a week after that and get this going. Otherwise, we're not gonna be able to mock up signage for right now. Is there anything that I'm missing for you guys? I'm kind of tired of putting my days today.
On the signage.
I'm like, there's a lot, it's so hard though. I mean, it is so very hard to capture this. The more ideas we get, the more we're looking at things and the better we're going to come up to. Noting that my best ideas have already been shut down. There are codes to signs.
Yeah.
So there's some things we can't pretty much.
Well, because this is the county office, are there still the same rules about how big they're supposed to be? Because aren't we supposed to not have them past 6 feet or something?
Yeah, so like my banners on the side of the building are far outside of the building, but they're not permanently affixed.
So you're allowed to leave those, but if.
So I'm allowed to leave those, but if I wanted it to say election center in the same size and typeface and attached to the building, I would have to work with our codes on our side department.
Or polling center,
Or no center, just one word.
Also, let me put this down too, because
Motion hearing. Vote. Yeah, I feel like we can finish them. Okay, so we've got next steps with that. I'm thinking that you're already at 4:30 right now.
oh yeah, let's keep this moving, thank you.
So those were my topics of new business. With that, we can move to comments from committee members.
I have some comments. So I worked at Hellgate during the last fall's election. And with the new precincts, I think it'd be really handy if people, before they even get in the door, check their phone, get on the My Voter page and find out which precinct they are and be prepared. So for all the people that have phones, they can do that, which is practically everybody. If there was a big sign that they did that, because the little map that we had, we had a huge map. It was so big, I couldn't even see the top of it and the little street, So then I was wondering if we could have an iPad or something available, just one, where either the greeter can look people up by their name or the people can look it up. you know, with their birthday and stuff to find out exactly which precinct they are. And hopefully even maybe give a little sticky note because people would forget by, you know, there was 5 precincts in there and they'd forget before they got, they like, I thought maybe 6, like east, west, north, whatever it is.
Yes.
I mean,
we make
because
all
the
that
precincts-
happen.
Yeah, I'm just, I mean, I know Wi-Fi in the place is a little bit of a question or whatever, but
Yeah,
I just feel like that way people could find out if they were registered, I mean, right then they would know they'd have to go to the, you know, provisionals instead of trying to get a ballot there or go to the other polling place even instead of. It's a lot of work for the poll workers to have to keep that straight. So,
yeah, I think that's a great idea. I like a lot of it. What I don't do is provide items at polling places that require a connection to the internet. So I wanna figure that one out.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, could it be wired, like not a Wi-Fi, but an Ethernet?
well, the first part's super easy. The second part, let me dig into just a little bit, because here's the thing. Everybody gets a Kindle tablet that has this horrible list.
What's the thing? I mean,
It's required in our law. I'm like, is there a way we could get something similar?
I mean, everybody's cell phone works on a cell signal, so.
Couldn't they put the GIS files on a non-Wi-Fi tablet? So you would still be able to look everything up, but it just won't be through the internet?
Yeah, you know, when you go down to the courthouse to pay your property tax or whatever, there's that little sign-in thing. I mean, those are wired, right? It's something like that.
And so, yeah, I'm thinking about that. It's interesting. They're powered, they're logged in. And then they go through the Wi-Fi, the way that they're set up. But my bigger concern is just around claims of voter fraud. Now, here's the reality. We have time. We have a good area. I've got great requests. Yes, I can absolutely advertise my voter page really well. I can create some great banners, go to every polling place that says, do you know your precinct? And it can have my voter page, it can have the QR code in your text message, and I'm like, both. And then we can have that included. We can figure out something good. I just want to be prepared for people to be like, did you know that when they're coming in, they're looking these people up and we can. Sometimes just being ahead of that is great. This year, we're gonna have people with tablets who can help you figure out your precinct before you come into the polling place. You can always check it out on myvoterpagemt.com, but if we do a press release around that and get a little bit ahead, that's a lot better than, did you know that they're now using tablets at the polling place? I don't really know what for, isn't that strange?
Yeah, I agree with that. Well, even if, I mean, the problem with the Kindle was the.
Oh, they're garbage.
And so even if a regular laptop and a spreadsheet that can't access the internet
Yeah.
would be far easier than that stupid Kindle.
And here's the thing, we have 17 polling locations now. This changes things. We don't yet, we still have 27, there has been no decision made on this.
Yeah.
The plan proposed drops that down. Part of this was, with so many locations, we need so much equipment, we need it the cheapest, easiest way possible. With fewer, we can do more. So there's a lot of ideas there.
I bet we can get every app computers for $1.
Yeah, or just check them out.
Well,
30 of them is a different story than I need 5 more or 6 more.
well, I mean, it says the precincts on the ballot too, like, I mean, you just change the printing on ballots so that it just actually says it on there and in the instructions include, you know, say your precinct number is on your ballot.
Well, the ones that go to the mail aren't the problems. These are the people that come to vote
Oh, okay.
at the poll. They don't know what precinct they're in. They don't know whether they got an absentee ballot. They got one and threw it away. They're saying they don't, I never got it, you know, and I get.
Well, then I wonder if this is an issue that much at all, and it's something that I want to explore because we don't have precinct level tabulators.
Right.
I think if we have a precinct level tabulator, then a computer hooked up to the internet right next to it, it's a little different than.
Oh, you mean the question of the Wi-Fi, yeah.
Yeah, and so like, that's another change that's really kind of driving through. I want to explore it, I want to be cautious, yes, let's take these up.
as I say, in 2022 at Cold Springs, it was like me using all of the phones available to look up people on the
Yeah, that's
website.
right.
And it was like, I mean,
It seemed a little bit inappropriate, I know.
but it was, the tablet was just.
It was junk in the next no good way. Sorry, I'm kind of rabbit hole there. Yes, absolutely. I think that especially because UC. They, what,
Everybody.
7 precincts now?
Yeah.
No, all of these precincts, we didn't add more voters. It's not like that changed. It's. We've consolidated, we put them through.
The numbers changed, they're
Yeah.
not called the same thing.
But I think that that would be a really great thing to
Yeah, I
advertise.
got used to mine, what's changed.
Right.
Only lived there for 23 years. but- Probably, but I can make my comments in return. So,
Want to share with us an email?
I don't remember any of the comments I have.
Okay. If you do.
I remember that one all the way from last one, but
No.
that's pretty good.
Yes.
I think I vented it, Bradley. about
Well,
the
and
same thing.
I mean, along those lines, we only have 2 more meetings before the primary, so. I mean, it seems like it's far away, but it's not that far away.
Not at all for me. I'm like living and breathing it. It's fun to be working on 2024's elections. Thanks to an amazing team running this current election. It's really about who you got in the office.
Other comments from community members? The next agenda item that I have is the establishment of our next meeting date. Next EAC meeting, time and date Tuesday, January 9th at 3 p.m.
Quick update for this, for those of you who utilize the Teams link. We need a new one. They expire. I've talked with them. They expire a year out, so they're gonna wait a little bit later before they renew it for the next year, just so it doesn't impact us in any later elections. But the link information will change. You guys always get the link information included with the agenda and the other info coming in.
So will the calendar appointment change, or do you want us to, do you want me to send you calendar? So,
It will change. The calendar appointment will, and I'll send it to everybody. They actually come from the BCC.
that's what I thought.
Yeah. And then that'll change and the link will change. That's how we get the ability for people to call in.
Great. Thank you for that. With that, I have adjournment as the next item. So move to adjourn. Second. In favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Seconds, excellent. On the final page, we also have the importance of dates coming up. So just to keep those in mind, of course, election day. I'm gonna have to offer some sort of extra next Tuesday. That's okay. I'll see what I can do. Ballots mail out October 18th for my students to come and observe where people are going. I think that'd be good. I can get them to like do an intercept. It'd be good. And then, Canvas on the 20th. Anything else you want us to take on this for?
Campus meeting, new location, so we release room. We were working on this. We've done both of our meetings at different locations for the campus, just to try out a couple of different pieces of technology. It is open to the public. We've invited all of the candidates, city officials, anybody who would like to come from here. It is amazing the level of detail we go through to talk about closing our elections. So encourage anybody to come who can.
Do we have any, like, requirement that you should go?
No. My biggest thing is, I'm gonna just make sure everybody gets election training links and or videos. Because if you joined us in the middle between this, you probably never got sent a video.
And I'll work with Bradley after the meeting to connect with the county commissioners and send the follow-up. And whatever we can figure out the time to meet and move that forward.
Thanks, Travis. Thanks, everybody. Sorry, I caught you mid.
Bye all.
Bye, Travis. Have a great day. Thank you for your help.
Yeah, you guys too.